From pocket change to life-changing fortune, these state quarters are quietly making collectors rich. Welcome to Rare Coins Numix, where history meets hidden treasure. Watch till the end, your next coin could be worth a fortune. The 2000 Massachusetts state quarter was more than just a coin, it was a symbol of revolution, pride, and American legacy. And yet, it was born into circulation with little fanfare, mixed in with millions of others, destined to be passed from hand to hand, unnoticed. But some coins, just a few, carry within them a secret spark, a hidden brilliance that waits patiently to be discovered. Back in early 2000, Americans were still adjusting to a new millennium. The Y2K panic had come and gone, and the world was buzzing with hope and innovation. Amidst that atmosphere, the U.S. Mint released the Massachusetts Quarter, part of its ambitious 50-state quarters program. The coin's reverse design was a tribute to the birthplace of the American Revolution. A strong and determined Minuteman, modeled after the statue at the Lexington Battle Green, stood front and center, musket in hand, guarding the outline of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It was bold, clear, and instantly recognizable. More than 1.1 billion of these coins poured out of the Philadelphia and Denver mints. At the time, collectors were excited, but no one could have guessed that one day, one of these quarters would fetch a small fortune. Most people saw them as keepsakes, souvenirs from the ever-growing list of commemorative state coins. Children collected them in fold-out maps. Adults occasionally glanced at the reverse before tossing them into change jars. Very few considered the long-term value. And yet, within that sea of billions, a few rare specimens defied the norm. It was one of those rare coins that found its way into the life of Clara Jennings. After retiring from teaching, Clara took up coin collecting as a way to stay connected to her love of history. Each coin, she believed, told a story, a moment frozen in metal. Her weekends were filled with antique markets, coin fairs, and thrift stores. On one such weekend in the spring of 2021, while perusing an antique shop along the cobbled streets of Portsmouth, she stumbled upon an unassuming jar of coins. Most were common, worn, unremarkable. But one quarter stood out, not because it was flashy, but because of the way it caught the light. Clara picked it up, held it to her eyes, and paused. The quarter had the 2000 date. Massachusetts. Nothing immediately unusual. But the texture, the strike, the shine, it all felt different. When she returned home, she placed the coin under a magnifier. The details were incredibly sharp, the lines of the musket, the Minuteman's features, even the state's silhouette, everything was pristine. And then she noticed something else. A subtle doubling of the eastern edge of the state. A barely visible die crack along the musket's barrel. Intrigued, she sent it to a professional grading service. Weeks later, a phone call changed everything. "Ms. Jennings, are you sitting down?" the voice said on the other end. The coin had been graded a perfect MS-70. But more than that, it was confirmed to have a rare and undocumented mint error. The doubling was real. The die crack, authentic. It was a one-of-a-kind specimen. The numismatic community lit up with speculation and excitement. Clara's quarter became the subject of forums, blogs, and expert reviews. Coin shows featured photos of it. Collectors searched through their own jars and collections, hoping to find something similar. As months passed, offers came in. At first, modest. Then, rapidly escalating. $5,000. $10,000. $30,000. A prominent East Coast collector offered $50,000 outright. But Clara, ever the teacher, wanted to understand the coin's full value before parting with it. She declined politely, waiting, learning. The attention only grew. Finally, in the fall of 2023, an anonymous collector based in California contacted Clara through an auction house. This was no casual buyer, this was someone who had followed the coin's journey from the start. After a brief negotiation and thorough authentication process, the auction date was set. Collectors and investors watched in suspense as the bidding opened. The numbers climbed quickly, jumping in thousands. When the gavel finally dropped, the final bid shocked even the most seasoned numismatists. $64,000. The Massachusetts state quarter, once tossed into a dusty coin jar, had become one of the most valuable state quarters ever sold. Not because it was encrusted in gold, or studded with diamonds, but because it was unique. A coin that told a story. A coin that captured the imagination of everyone who heard about it. News of the sale made waves beyond the coin-collecting world. Local newspapers featured Clara's story. Coin enthusiasts flooded social media with images of their own Massachusetts quarters, inspecting each one closely. Even casual collectors dusted off their old coin folders, suddenly curious about what might lie within. Experts weighed in on the coin's rarity, speculating about the chances of other similar errors existing. Some believed Clara's coin was a fluke, a one-in-a-billion anomaly. Others were convinced that more examples could be out there, just waiting to be discovered. The story sparked renewed interest in the entire 50-state quarters series, with people now hunting not just for completion, but for potential hidden gems. Clara, for her part, became a minor celebrity in the numismatic world. She was invited to speak at coin shows and featured in collector magazines. Yet through it all, she remained grounded, always emphasizing that her greatest reward wasn't the money, it was the experience. The joy of discovery. The validation of her years of quiet collecting, and the best part. That story isn't over. Because there could be more like it, hidden in drawers, jars, and forgotten piggy banks across the country. So next time you receive change at the grocery store, or sort through an old coin stash, take a moment. The magic of the Massachusetts quarter lies not just in its value, but in its symbolism. It reminds us that history lives on through the most ordinary things, like a coin jingling at the bottom of your pocket. In a world racing forward with digital transactions and crypto tokens, a small silver piece from 2000 reminds us of a story that continues to grow richer with time. So check your change. Turn over your quarters. And remember Clara's story, because the next incredible discovery might just be yours. Up next, the 2000 Vermont State Quarter takes the spotlight, not just as another commemorative coin, but as a shining example of how American history, natural beauty, and a stroke of minting magic can converge into something truly extraordinary. When it was released as part of the 50-state quarters program, many admired the coin's peaceful depiction of maple trees being tapped for sap in front of the majestic camel's hump. But few could have imagined that hidden within this design was a version of the coin so rare, so pristine, that it would one day capture the attention of collectors worldwide. Back in 2000, the excitement surrounding the 50-state quarters program was at a fever pitch. Every new release sent Americans scouring their pocket change, eager to find the next state's design. Vermont's quarter captured a quiet beauty, representing not only the state's iconic sugaring tradition but also its long-standing values of freedom, unity, and connection to the land. With over 882 million Vermont quarters minted, few gave them more than a passing glance, but sometimes, in the sea of ordinary, one coin dares to be extraordinary. One such coin came into the possession of Martin Blake, a retired forestry worker living in rural Vermont. Martin had spent a lifetime among trees and hills, and in his quiet retirement, he found joy in simple things, long walks through maple groves, chopping wood, and fixing up his barn. It was during one of these maintenance days in late summer 2022 that he came across an old mason jar tucked behind a shelf. It was filled with coins, change accumulated over decades, tossed aside and forgotten. As he sifted through the jar, a quarter with a glint of unusual shine caught his attention. At first glance, it looked like any other Vermont state quarter, but there was something mesmerizing about the texture. The trees seemed etched more deeply, and the mountain in the background almost shimmered. He turned it over and noticed an odd doubling around the text and the rim, a subtle detail that sent a thrill through him. Unsure of what he had found, Martin contacted a local coin enthusiast in Montpelier, who quickly recognized the signs of a potential error coin and urged him to seek professional grading. He sent the coin to one of the nation's top grading services. What came back was beyond anything Martin, or the numismatic world, could have expected. The quarter was graded a flawless MS 70, the highest grade possible, which already made it incredibly valuable. But the real surprise was the presence of a dramatic die clash. This rare minting error happens when the stamping dies collide without a coin blank between them, imprinting parts of the design onto each other. The result? A haunting, ghost-like image visible on both sides of the coin. It was a striking visual anomaly, and a collector's dream. The coin community lit up. Martin's coin was featured in online forums, collector magazines, and even a special segment on a popular coin collecting YouTube channel. Seasoned collectors analyzed every photo and detail, trying to understand how such a pristine and error-laden specimen had made it into circulation unnoticed. Auction houses began to circle, offering initial bids that would make most people's heads spin. $15,000. Then $30,000. One private collector even offered Martin a brand new truck in addition to cash. But Martin, a patient man, wanted to do it right. He worked with a trusted numismatic consultant to set up a formal auction, ensuring transparency, maximum exposure, and a fair shot for every interested bidder. When the auction day arrived in January 2024, thousands tuned in online. Bidding started briskly, climbing past $40,000 within minutes. Then came the heavy hitters, collectors with deep pockets and a passion for rare coinage. As the digital gavel swung and the bids flew, the atmosphere turned electric. Each new offer was met with gasps and cheers in the live chat feed. $55,000. $57,000. $59,000, and then it happened. A final bid. A pause. The gavel came down with a click that echoed across the live stream. Sold, for a staggering $61,000. The crowd erupted in celebration. The Vermont State Quarter had officially joined the ranks of the most valuable state quarters ever recorded. And Martin? He was overwhelmed but grounded, as always. He donated a portion of the proceeds to a local forest preservation nonprofit and used the rest to fulfill a lifelong dream, building a cozy maplewood cabin in the very hills he loved so much. Today, Martin's story is told at coin conventions and collector meetups. His coin is now displayed in a temperature-controlled case in a private collection, but its legend lives on. It's a story of chance, of patience, and of the hidden value that lies all around us, if only we take the time to look. So next time you receive change at a coffee shop or dig into an old coin jar in the attic, remember the 2000 Vermont State Quarter. Examine it. Appreciate it. Because just like Martin, you might stumble upon a forgotten treasure, a small piece of history worth far more than its face value, and in a world racing toward digital wallets and contactless payments, this coin reminds us that sometimes, the most extraordinary things are still found in the most ordinary places. Up next, the 2017 effigy mound State Quarter emerges from the pages of American numismatic history, not just as a piece of currency, but as a deeply symbolic artifact that tells a story far older than the nation itself. This coin, part of the America the Beautiful Quarters program, stands apart not only for its rarity and value, but for the reverence and cultural depth it honors. Its design, unlike any other, captures the mysterious and sacred effigy mounds built by Native American cultures more than 1,000 years ago in what is now the state of Iowa. When the coin was released in early 2017, most people saw it as just another quarter to collect in the series. But to historians, archaeologists, and tribal members, the release meant something more. The coin features a group of aerial effigy mound shapes, bears and birds, designed in precise harmony with the landscape. These shapes weren't just random figures. They were built by hand, with intent and spiritual purpose, serving as burial sites, ceremonial platforms, and celestial markers. To see them captured on a U.S. coin was a powerful moment of recognition. Among coin collectors, however, something else sparked attention. It was discovered that a limited number of these quarters were struck with a unique error, an off-center strike that left part of the design ghosted toward the edge, along with a faint doubling of the word effigy. These slight flaws created a perfect storm for rarity and desirability. While the normal version circulated widely, these error coins were extremely few and far between, and they immediately caught the eyes of serious numismatists. One such coin surfaced in the collection of a young man named Jason Rivera, a student and part-time antique store assistant in Cedar Rapids. Jason had been sorting through a box of customer change when he noticed the oddity, a coin that didn't align quite right. Intrigued, he pocketed the quarter and later examined it with a jeweler's loupe. The details were off, the text subtly shifted, and there was a sliver of blank space near the edge. Jason, a history enthusiast, brought the coin to a local coin show where he met Emily Tran, a respected grading consultant. Her eyes widened the moment she saw it. After sending it in for authentication, the results were astonishing. Not only was it a rare mint error, but it had also been preserved in near-perfect condition, graded MS-69 with extremely sharp strikes and full luster. It was one of only 3 known examples at that grade, with fewer than 10 documented error coins of its kind. Word spread quickly. Coin forums lit up. Experts debated the implications. Some wondered how such a clean strike could carry such a notable error. Theories circulated, but consensus was clear: this coin was special. Auction houses began calling, and Jason, though tempted to hold on to it, ultimately decided to sell. The auction took place in October 2023. Hundreds of bids poured in during the first hour, with collectors from across the country vying for a chance to own what many were now calling the crown jewel of the America the Beautiful quarters. As the auction neared its close, the bidding war escalated to jaw-dropping levels. What fascinated many collectors wasn't just the rarity of the coin, but the story behind it, the notion that a young man with an eye for detail, working part-time in a dusty shop, could stumble upon a modern treasure. The tale of the coin spread beyond the numismatic community, with news outlets picking up the human angle. Jason was interviewed on podcasts and morning news shows, sharing how his curiosity and love for history led to an incredible discovery. Beyond the media buzz, museums and cultural organizations took interest in the effigy mounds coin for another reason: its cultural resonance. The coin wasn't just about value, it was about remembrance. It gave visibility to ancient traditions and sacred practices that often go unnoticed in the broader sweep of American history. For the Ho-Chunk, the Iowa, and other indigenous peoples whose ancestors built the mounds, the coin was a quiet tribute etched in metal. Jason, inspired by the attention and the significance of the coin's origin, used a portion of the proceeds to fund an educational project that brought Native American historians and archaeologists into Iowa schools. The initiative gave students a chance to learn about the true legacy of the effigy mounds, not just through textbooks, but through first-hand stories and field trips. And as for the coin itself, it now resides in a private collection owned by a renowned historian who promised to loan it to exhibitions on American currency and indigenous heritage. Kept in a secure, climate-controlled case, it remains in pristine condition, preserved as both an economic marvel and a cultural relic. The 2017 effigy mounds quarter, once overlooked as pocket change, had revealed a deeper story, not just of cultural heritage and ancient art, but of discovery, patience, and incredible worth. It's a reminder that behind every coin, no matter how small, may lie a forgotten legacy and untold value. And sometimes, with the right eye and a little luck, a simple quarter can be worth $34,000. So next time you reach into your pocket, empty an old jar of change, or receive coins back from a vending machine, don't rush to overlook what's in your hand. Because just like Jason, you might find yourself holding a piece of history, a quarter with a value far beyond 25 cents, both in dollars and in meaning. Up next, the 2020 National Park Quarter emerges not just as a beautifully crafted coin but as a powerful symbol of both natural beauty and unexpected worth. When this particular quarter entered circulation, it was part of the final leg of the America the Beautiful Quarters program, a series that honored national parks and historic sites across all U.S. states and territories. This final chapter was already drawing extra attention from collectors and history buffs alike, knowing the program was nearing its end. But few could predict the stir that the 2020 coin would cause in the world of numismatics. The 2020 coin in question featured the National Park of American Samoa, a breathtaking tribute to one of the most remote and least visited U.S. territories. Its reverse design instantly captured the imagination of many: two Samoan fruit bats hanging upside down, one adult cradling its young. The image resonated with collectors and animal lovers alike, symbolizing care, protection, and the fragility of nature. But even more intriguing than the symbolism was what began to surface from pockets, purses, and change jars. It began quietly, with a few coin enthusiasts on forums reporting oddities in the coin's design. At first, people thought it was just a coincidence, slight differences in how the coin looked depending on wear and tear. But over time, patterns started to emerge. In some rare examples, the bat's features appeared doubled, slightly misaligned, or blurred, a phenomenon known as a double die error. Even more astonishing were a handful of off-center strikes that left portions of the coin's border uneven or missing. As more of these error coins surfaced, word began to spread in the collector community. A retired schoolteacher in Kansas discovered one in her grandson's piggy bank and brought it to a local coin dealer, who confirmed its authenticity. A young college student in Oregon found one in his change after buying a coffee. And in Tampa, Florida, a middle-aged postal worker came across two in a roll of quarters she had picked up from the bank. One of the most famous discoveries was made by Laura Bennett, a hobbyist collector and environmental science teacher from Seattle. Laura had always loved both coins and nature, so the bat-themed quarter had already caught her interest. But one rainy afternoon in November 2022, while organizing her coin albums, she noticed something odd about one of her 2020 quarters. The doubling effect around the bat's wings was unmistakable. Her heart raced. She immediately took it to be appraised. The coin was sent to a top-tier grading service, which confirmed what she suspected. It was a rare double-die error, preserved in pristine condition. Not only was the error present and dramatic, but the coin was graded MS-70, a perfect score in terms of condition. News of Laura's find traveled fast, and soon collectors and dealers from across the country reached out to her, eager to learn more. Laura found herself suddenly at the center of a growing whirlwind of attention. She gave interviews on local radio stations, appeared on a couple of podcast episodes dedicated to coin collecting, and even wrote a short piece about her discovery for an online conservation blog. Her story had reached far beyond numismatics. Teachers began using it in classrooms to explain how history, science, and hobbies could overlap. Environmental groups praised the quarter's design for highlighting lesser-known wildlife and conservation issues. At first, she hesitated to sell, cherishing the sentimental and symbolic value of the find. But with encouragement from her family, she decided to list it in a well-publicized auction. The buzz leading up to the auction was electric. Collectors recognized not only the coin's rarity and condition but also its timely importance, a symbol of endangered species, conservation efforts, and the closing chapter of a beloved coin series. The auction took place in February 2024. Starting bids came in fast. $5,000. Then $10,000. Laura and her family watched from home, stunned as the numbers climbed higher and higher. Bidders from New York, Tokyo, and London competed fiercely. In just under an hour, the coin had soared to an impressive final bid. Sold. The final price stunned even seasoned collectors. A 25-cent piece, once tucked into a handful of change, had become a small fortune. But beyond the money, it had told a story, about nature, heritage, and the value of paying attention. Today, Laura uses her experience to teach her students not just about coins or conservation, but about curiosity and patience. The coin now lives in a private collection in California but is scheduled to appear in a traveling exhibition highlighting the intersection of art, history, and the natural world. It has already drawn crowds in Chicago and San Francisco, and plans are underway for stops in Denver, Boston, and even overseas in Germany and Australia. Meanwhile, the 2020 National Park Quarter has achieved something few coins ever do. It has inspired a movement. Collectors of all ages, many new to the hobby, have begun to seek out other coins in the America the Beautiful series, especially those with errors or special designs. Families are bonding over sorting through jars of coins together. Grandparents are passing down their collections with new enthusiasm. And young people, intrigued by Laura's story, are learning how even the smallest details can carry meaning, value, and sometimes, life-changing potential. So the next time you receive change at a grocery store or sort through your laundry day leftovers, take a closer look. That simple quarter might not just be a coin. It might be a story, a symbol, and if you're lucky, a treasure worth $23,000.